Alrighty everyone, welcome back. It is now February 21st of 2025, and ever since the SNL 50th anniversary Backlash went viral and truly backfired on Tom Hanks and his career, and even those showrunners over at NBC running the show for SNL's 50th, we all know a lot of things are going on right now, and one thing is for certain is that Tom Hanks is bleeding fans. He is losing fans left and right, millions upon millions of them, by the way, to the point that he had to actually disable comments on Instagram. And to my knowledge, the last time I checked, they are still disabled. If you guys would like to go ahead and update me on that below in the comments. But what's interesting about all of this has a lot more to do with Sylvester Stallone and what he recently did toward Tom Hanks in response to the SNL 50th anniversary Backlash because of how he portrayed a Trump supporter / MAGA on live television. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. So there is no doubt about it that SNL right now is struggling. We know that they are going through a lot of flack. They are getting a lot of backlash and pushback from the general public. Tens of millions of people that once used to be fans of SNL are now no longer supporting this program. We have a lot more to talk about that as well. But what's interesting here has a lot more to do with Sylvester Stallone and how he actually reacted toward Tom Hanks and what's been going on there. Now we know that there are more and more celebrities, personalities, and those in the public eye that are beginning to call out Tom Hanks and or are beginning to defend him publicly, and it's really like a tug-of-war situation right now within the film industry. So what's interesting about all of this has a lot more to do with Sylvester Stallone. Now, with the SNL 50th anniversary Backlash now going viral after Tom Hanks displayed that comedy skit and parody of a Trump supporter that truly backfired, many celebrities, personalities, and more are beginning to either call out Tom Hanks or are taking action against him in varying ways. One major development going on now involves more to do with Sylvester Stallone and what he recently did toward Tom Hanks after Hanks deliberately mocked MAGA and Trump supporters. It turns out that the 50th anniversary for Tom Hanks and Sylvester Stallone, of course, were slated to appear together on the late night program known as Late Night with Seth Meyers, which is run by NBC. Now, both Stallone and Hanks were planned to do a game of trivia together on Seth Meyers for that show for this April around the second week of that month. However, in response to the ongoing backlash for SNL's 50th based on what Hanks did on that program and what he also recently said toward MAGA Republicans, Sylvester Stallone decided to cancel his appearance on NBC and Seth Meyers together, to the point that Tom Hanks took offense to that and was also embarrassed over that cancellation. Now, part of the bit was also going to focus on how Sylvester Stallone was going to have a conversation with Tom Hanks live on television and how he would discuss films that they were supposed to star in together that never worked out and never happened. It turns out that Hanks didn't want to actually do that comedy bit as well on Seth Meyers and did not want that information about those failed film projects getting out to the general public about their experiences. After Stallone canceled his appearance, it turns out that he is already planning to go on the Joe Rogan podcast by this spring to also discuss his movies that he was supposed to do with Tom Hanks that failed because of creative differences. Now, Sylvester Stallone was also reportedly deeply offended over Tom Hanks and his portrayal of a MAGA supporter, to the point that he was repulsed to even sit next to him on Late Night with Seth Meyers, which was surprising since Sylvester Stallone, believe it or not, usually welcomes anyone that holds differing political views on how they see a different side. This time, it just did not work for Stallone, and he and his entire team recently informed NBC that they will never appear on Meyers for a very long time, if ever at that, after what Tom Hanks did on SNL. So guys, let me just stop here for one moment. This is very similar of what happened with Jimmy Kimmel / Jimmy Fallon, where Sylvester Stallone did not want to appear on those programs after what they said about Trump with what they said about the 2024 election loss. And ironically, we have NBC, who, by the way, owns both Seth Meyers. They run that show. They also run SNL. And this is basically Stallone's way of sending them a message. So again, we know that Stallone has a lot of projects that he's working on currently. He's got a lot of things going on with Tulsa King Season 3 and future seasons as well. along with surprising, yet to be announced movies and television projects that are about to be announced by Stallone himself on the Joe Rogan podcast, on other radio shows and podcast shows out there. It's going to be quite an interesting 2025 year. But again, this is another prime example that the backlash is that severe. It's that large to the point that Tom Hanks truly got offended, he got embarrassed over the whole Sylvester Stallone cancellation and how he no longer wants anything to do with Seth Meyers, with Late Night with Seth Meyers on NBC. So that's a very revealing factor here. Now, moving onwards, alright, Sylvester is also doing this in response to NBC in order to send a message to both Hanks and the showrunners of SNL, since NBC, like I said before, runs both Seth Meyers and SNL. Hanks was reportedly embarrassed that the backlash went that viral and got that severe to the point that Stallone canceled his appearance and did not want anything to do with Tom Hanks on television. Already Tom Hanks and his agent and manager, shockingly, get this, are now informing NBC that they are planning to remove Tom Hanks from the program to diminish further backlash. So that's another thing, is that Hanks, his agent and manager, they're all coming up with this plan that maybe it's not a great idea to go on Seth Meyers or NBC, quite frankly, for a very long time at this point. And that really is another revealing factor of just how big the backlash truly is. Now, of course, you're going to have a lot of opinionated people out there that are going to make it out that the backlash is coming from a minority. It's really coming from a large chunk of the entire country, a large chunk of the United States. You know, tens upon tens of millions of people that want nothing to do with SNL anymore, and that's a very revealing thing there. Now, again, Sylvester Stallone, I think, is making the right call. I think that he is, standing his ground. He's standing up for what's right as far as how he sees things. We already know that he was supposed to also announce other projects on Seth Meyers while he was sitting next to Tom Hanks, and he doesn't want to do it on there. He doesn't want to do it in that sitting, so instead he wants to do it on programs like Joe Rogan and other radio shows out there, other podcast programs, etc., etc. Now, to conclude here, this is also reportedly what Tom Hanks wants right now, since he was embarrassed after the Stallone incident happened just recently behind the scenes at NBC. Already the showrunners of SNL are in complete panic mode right now, as they are bleeding fans as we speak. So that's another thing, is that you got Tom Hanks, who's losing fans. He disabled his Instagram comments. Nobody can comment on his account as of right now. That's how big the backlash really is. And we already know at the same exact time, Tom Hanks is canceling appearances on not just late night programs, but also programs where he was supposed to actually sit next to other hosts, or other guests, I should say, communicating with the hosts of those shows, and how they are canceling their appearances because they want nothing to do with Hanks right now anymore. It's to the point that Hanks doesn't even want to go on those shows now. So it's also impacting a lot of programs like NBC, ABC, CNN, etc., etc. It's going to be interesting to see where this all goes in the long run, and what happens with Tom Hanks' career by the time we reach 2026. But overall, I would love to hear what everyone has to say about all of this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.